And I also want to add that should you choose to go to an educational institution, I think it's really important that you go in and understand that that institution is set up that way for a reason. In other words, there's a lot of people that come in again with tunnel vision, short sighted, like, well, I just want to learn about this. Well, there's a reason these other things are there because they're important, right?
Yes.
So, me being the business course, a lot of people don't want to touch my class. They're like, I don't care about that. That's not how my brain works, blah, blah, blah. And then they realize how important my information is in the grand scheme of everything. You're trying to put your music out. Do you know what an aggregator is? Do you know how many aggregators are out there? Do you know how they're charging? Do you know that you can actually use more than one for different types of music? And we talked about this in an episode as well.
Do you know
Um,
that they're not the only one to collect all of your royalties? Welcome to this week's episode of the Vana Room. I'm really excited to chat about this week's topic, which is, do you need a college degree or do you need a college education to pursue a career in the music business? And as a former student who is now pursuing a career in the music industry, and Monique, who is an educator in the music industry, we have some different perspectives and we want to outline some of the reasons why you don't need a degree and mostly why it may be beneficial to pursue a degree. But it's so different. So we're going to kind of go over and answer some of those questions from a few different perspectives. So, first of all, Monique, how has it been? It's been a while since we've recorded an episode.
yeah, all is well over here, staying healthy, staying happy, and just taking each day as it comes and taking it as a blessing. How about you?
Yeah, same. It's been pretty hot out here in LA. We've got like 95-degree weather pretty consistently. So it's been pretty hot, been staying in the house. This Southern California sunshine is just very brutal on my very pale skin.
Yeah. Yeah, the sun's been pretty brutal out here too. Make sure you put on your sunblock every time you leave the house because even when it's cloudy out, those UV rays are not messing around. So they can still do some damage even if it's not super sunny, but it's been pretty humid
Absolutely.
here. I too have been staying in the house and we've been getting these ridiculous, I mean, we're still in hurricane season, so we get these storms in the middle of the day that are just off the charts. So I'm like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good staying in the house for right now.
Yeah, I miss those storms. We very rarely get any rain out here, and I miss those good Florida storms where you just have to hunker down and stay in the house.
Stay in the house and watch TV.
Yep. Cool. So let's dig into this this
Yes.
topic, which is,
Yes.
do you need a college degree to pursue a career in the music business? Well, the short answer is no, but there's a lot of buts to this question. It really depends on what you're pursuing in the music business. So, Monique, I know you mentioned a topic right before, or kind of a talking point right before we hit record. So, do you want to kind of discuss that, and then we can kind of go back and forth?
I do, but I want to say something before that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Um, Yes, absolutely. Something to consider is what aspect of the industry you're trying to get into. I think some other things you need to consider is the type of person that you are. School is not for everyone, whether it be financially or just maybe the way that you learn. You may have a hard time with the regulated schedule. You may have a hard time with, you may have personality conflict with your professor, which everybody's different. Every teacher is different. I'm more strict than other teachers. There are teachers more strict than myself. So those are some of the other reasons why going to school may not be for you. So, to Lennon's point, yes, depending on what area of the industry you're trying to get into, that's going to have a factor
Mhm.
on it. And then these other things I mentioned, the type of person that you are, the type of learner that you are, and how determined you are to really understand the industry. There are people in the music industry who have been very successful and did not attend school until much later on in their career because the industry evolved so much. If you don't know where to look to get that information, then going to a higher education institution and learning from somebody who is trying to keep up with these things can at least give you the resources so when you leave school, you know where to look to continue to keep up with these things. And that's something I do with my students. Yes, they know the copyright office is where you go to register a copyright, but what they don't realize is that's where you can also get the most updated information when laws change or when laws are presented and that sort of thing. Same thing with the trademark office. And then industry publications. I know a lot of people aren't using magazines anymore, but they're all digital. So sign up for a subscription. And that way you can get notifications in your email and you can keep up that way. So I just kind of wanted to say that before we kind of dove into the different aspects of the industry. So returning to your original question, I think we started with musicians. I think if your goal is to be an accomplished musician, do you have to go to school? No. I think it may serve you. And I'm not a musician. However, I'm friends with a great deal of very successful musicians who are touring. And to that end, I think the one thing we have to learn, regardless of the area, is that you should never stop learning at every aspect of your life. You need to understand that you are always going to be a student. We are all a student of life. And so as a musician, I think it's important for you to keep your chops up by working with other musicians who are more skilled than yourself, sitting down and listening to others' theories or ways that they create or what have you. Stay up on what's happening with your instrument. Has there been an evolution in your instrument? Is there something you can create and become a patent owner based on your use and other uses? So, yeah, I think is it necessary? No, I think it is necessary from an education standpoint, but it doesn't have to be school. I think the word education and school need to be separated because you can be educated and not go to school, right?
Mm,
You just have
that's a
to
good
know
point.
where to get that information. And so that's something else we're going to touch on, which is be mindful of the source where you get your information and make sure that you follow up and research, kind of vet your source. Okay, this is what this says. Now let me make sure it's consistent with what I'm seeing, right?
Mhm.
Because I see people get the copyright term messed up all the time. And it's because, and they're like, well, I looked it up on Google. Okay, but what exactly did you look up? Because that copyright term you're telling me is for a completely different country. So your search wasn't even correct. And that's why you're not getting the correct information. And that's something you learn when you come to school and learn it from somebody who knows what they're talking about.
There are tons and tons of resources out there that are reputable and reliable to get information, like podcasts like this one. You have the online publications like Billboard, Rolling Stone, Music Ally, all those music business worldwide. There are different YouTube classes and courses that you can purchase. Go to YouTube and search anything you want. Any digital audio workstation that you want to learn, you can learn it. Do you need to spend 50 to 100 to $300,000 on a degree to learn how to use Pro Tools? Absolutely not. There are tons and tons of actual reliable resources out there that you can leverage to educate yourself without going to school and spending tens of thousands of dollars on a degree.
And I think it's important that even if you are learning, I have a lot of students that come in, they're like, well, I already know how to use Pro Tools. I don't need to take this Pro Tools class. And it's like, you're already coming in with the wrong mentality. You
Yes.
know, you may have been, oh gosh, you may have been self-taught briefly, but you really are not learning the deep dive into this particular program or, and even if you are proficient in it and you choose to go to school, then take that opportunity to just perfect your skill. I think that is something that's really that really needs to be pressed upon folks who are trying to decide, and that is nobody knows everything. I tell my students this on the first day of class. I don't know anybody who knows everything, and the people who do don't know squat. But I know a lot of people who are very intelligent in different little areas of different things. And that's who you need to surround yourself with. And, not that I'm pushing school because I am an educator and I don't want it to come off as if I'm pro school. I'm not necessarily pro degree, but I am definitely pro education and 100% pro education. And so, one of the things that you can do if you choose not to go to school is how to network and find the right people to keep in your circle. So these areas that you are not proficient in, you can at least have a resource that could be a website, that could be a publication, but let it be somebody who's actually practicing in these areas, right? Now, if you find yourself
Mhm.
asking questions to the point where these people are like, you really need to go to school and get it, then maybe you need to consider school, because now it's the people who know these things who, not that they don't have time for you, but these are things that you should already know if you're going to call yourself an engineer, a musician, blah, blah, blah. If you don't know how to read music, and there are plenty of people out there who are very successful who don't know how to read music, but if that's something that you feel you really need to learn, see if there's an a la carte kind of menu you can pick from at a particular university and learn how to read music. And the thing that I like
Mhm.
about doing it through a university versus just going online is online. A lot of times people are like, oh, pay me X amount of dollars and I'll tutor you. Or you'll email them or inbox them, DM them, whatever, and they never get back to you. But with a university, you develop a relationship with your instructor, your professor, whoever it is, and then there lies an opportunity to gain someone for your network, and you have somebody who is hands-on, able to assist you in that matter.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, that's very true. And I like what you first said too. Is I don't need to take this Pro Tools class because I already know everything about Pro Tools. That's false. You definitely don't know everything about Pro Tools, and there are people that will your instructor will most likely know a lot more about Pro Tools because they've been working in Pro Tools for the better part of a decade or 20 years or whatever, however long they've been in the industry. And that one piece of knowledge that they share with you may be something you did not know. And you're also going into it learning about different aspects of Pro Tools and networking with other people who can teach you even more in-depth tricks and ways and little nooks and crannies with the different programs on how to use it even better and more efficiently. There's definitely no way to. I've been using FL Studio, for example, for probably 15 years, and there's no way I know everything in that program. I still learn something every time I open that program. I learn something new. Same with Logic. I learn something new every time I open it. There's a different way, a different technique, a different strategy, a different shortcut, something. I'm always learning something.
And I mean, I don't, we're just kind of having this conversation. So the next thing I will say is, so we just kind of spoke mostly about musicians and people on the technical side of things. Now let's move into other areas of music or the music industry that may require you to go to school, such as being a lawyer. If you're looking at being on the legal side of things, you have to go to school. Um, as far as being a practicing attorney, obviously you got to go to law school and then, take the bar exam and all that kind of stuff. You don't need to go to school necessarily to be a manager, but it certainly helps to go get that background information so you know what kind of manager you are supposed to be, because there's different types of managers, right? Same thing for agents. Now, agents are supposed to be licensed by the state. So, though you don't have to go get a degree to be an agent, you do have to take an exam and pay some money to be licensed by the state to be an agent in order to book talent, right? And that's going to differ
Mm,
from
mhm,
state to state. So, for those of you throughout the universe, look into what your state requires for entertainment agents, music agents, booking agents, basically, that sort of thing. Managers, again, this may vary from state to state, but overall, managers can be anybody. The thing is, though, is if you are an artist looking for a manager, what is it that your manager should know? You should know that. And if you don't know that, then educate yourself, right? Again, you don't need a degree to find that out, but you should educate yourself. And on the other side of that, if you're trying to manage artists, you should know what your job is. Are you the business manager? Are you the personal manager? Are you the tour manager? What is your job? What is your job description? What are you supposed to know to do your job? Short and sweet. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So on that front, I think it would help to go study somewhere, um, get a certificate. I don't care. I don't care what the piece of paper says. What I care is what you come out of there learning, and what you do with that information moving forward. So obviously on the law side of things, it would be in your best interest to, yes, go to school and learn how that process is supposed to go.
I even like, when because I got my degree in music production, so I wasn't strictly learning music production, I also learned from your class the business of music, and as a musician, we've talked about this before on the podcast, is understanding just basics of basic contracts, basic copyrights, basic collaboration agreements, what to ask for, those types of things are vital, so you don't get taken advantage of as a musician when you're going into these things. If you say, no, I produce music and that's all I do, I don't need to know anything. I never know how to write a contract. I don't know how copyrights work. My manager just handles all that. Well, there's no way for your manager for you to go in and actually audit your manager to make sure you're actually doing these things correctly. But if you get an education and you go to if you choose to go to college and you learn that structure, you'll understand what the basics are and what flags to look for in these types of scenarios. So you come out with a ground knowledge of everything. Sure, music production is your primary focus, but you also have a basic understanding of the business and what to look for in a manager, in a touring agent, in a lawyer, what types of contracts. When the lawyer talks about you're going to need a collaboration agreement, what is your publishing? How much, what's the split? You'll know all of these basic terms and you'll be able to communicate much more effectively with other industry professionals.
And another thing I find is when people dive into their education, and they start learning a little bit more about what the business side of the industry looks like, they actually discover that they like another part, or they may be
Mm,
better at something else. So, a lot of people come in with tunnel vision, and
yep.
they're like, well, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to study, and da 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 da. And then they start discovering other aspects of the industry, and they're like, oh, but I like this over here. And then they discover not only do they like it, but they actually have a talent for it. And
Yeah.
it may be an area that you enjoy it a little bit more. You may end up making more money in that area. So that is the other thing that going to school opens you up to, is you start to learn other aspects of the industry. Like, even though I teach business, the cool thing about where I work is I get to see other aspects of audio that I wasn't familiar with. And I discovered audio post, and I was like, what is this magic that I did not know about? This is super cool.
Hmm.
And that led me into the opportunities to work on feature films doing voice ADR, which I never even heard of ADR. I knew nothing of it. I came from broadcasting. And so I think that's another thing that school opens you up to, is other opportunities that you could be doing. Like, you think, oh, I'm just going to work on music. Yeah, but what is music? Music is audio. That opens you up to other areas for you to make money and, create other revenue streams for yourself. So I think that is the a pro to going to school. Again, we are not here. Let me say this again. We're not here to push school on anybody, but for anybody who's like, I don't know if I want to go to school or not, we're just telling you, here are some of the benefits of going to school, because you already know the cons, right? Your schedule is too busy. You don't have enough money. You got 3 kids running around and you can't afford childcare. I get all of that. I get every aspect of that. So y'all already know the cons. We are not here to be negative Nancy's. We're here we're here to be positive and give you guys some insight into what additional education could offer. And again, Lennon and I both have already said it does not have to be a degree or a school. There are courses you can take. There's Coursera, there's EDX, there's another one that
LinkedIn
falls in that,
Learning.
LinkedIn Learning, where you can learn stuff. Absolutely. So There's those masterclass, that masterclass
Oh,
platform, and
yep.
there's people that I work with that have taken some of those, and you have people in the industry that are successful teaching those courses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and there's one. Sorry, Lennon. Let me say this before I forget, because I thought about it earlier and I was like, oh, I'm going to forget. The other thing I think is really important, especially in our industry, is to understand that everyone's experience is going to be different. And so you are going to get information based on facts, but everything is coming from someone's experience within that area. And I think with that, you can absolutely take what they're saying as a truth, but you have to remember that that was their experience. So before you're quick to try to dismiss something that somebody stated about something that happened, whether it be a contract, whether it be how to use a particular software or marketing or what have you, I think it's really important to understand that that is that person's experience in that area, and it's possible to share without beating somebody down or what have you. I think you need to make sure you acknowledge someone else's experience in a particular area, and the way you respond is just, wow, I've never had that experience. You validate what they're telling you, but you take the note, because
Hmm.
that could happen to you one day. The same way people get taken advantage of in this industry, and they're like, oh, I'll never get taken advantage of. That'll never happen to me in a contract. I pray it does not. But you better listen to somebody else's experience, because that is an opportunity for you to learn from somebody else's mistake. And I think a lot of people forget that.
And you say that you're not going to get taken advantage of in a contract. Well, if you don't have an education on what contracts are and how serious they are and how to go about maneuvering through them, you may most likely get taken advantage of, because if somebody senses a label or a manager or some scam artist out there knows that you are not going to review anything, and they know that you don't know anything about contracts or anything business wise related to music, they most likely will draft up a contract that will scam you out of, lock you into something, a legal bounding contract that could potentially have ramifications and cost you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a period of time. So that's why this education is so important. And it's just I can't stress it enough. I wanted to say one thing else that you were talking about. I want to add something. I wrote it down before I forgot. Was you were mentioning all the different courses and stuff that you could take. There's like Masterclass and Coursera and LinkedIn Learning, and there's a handful of other ones. One thing that I recently found out is my local library, you can actually get access to these platforms through having a library card, in addition to a number of other benefits. Like, I also get ancestry.com. So going to the library, checking out, go to their website and see what type of resources they offer. And a lot of times libraries are very pro education as well as we are. Hence, they are libraries. They have books that you can access any topic you ever wanted. So they're also going to provide resources on LinkedIn Learning, Masterclass. They might have a subscription to like the Los Angeles Times. I know we do. We can go in and we have like 24-hour access. After we click it, we have 24 access to the Los Angeles Times, so we can go through and read a bunch of articles. So that's a good resources as well. Just check to see what resources and educational things that your local library may have.
And your library may also host seminars. I know the
Yes.
library here does, like our guest Davy. She really has done a fantastic job of making herself available for different events, including our podcast. But she has done speaking events at the library where she talks about copyrights, where she talks about, different areas of the music industry that people should know. Um, you know, to the local musicians, and it's free. It didn't cost a dime. You show up, and the nice thing about it is when she's done, she makes herself available for about 30 minutes. People come up and ask questions, and so that is what I like about having a live person, is that I don't have to wait for your reply to my inbox that you probably never see, or your publicist looks at and they're like, we're going to dismiss this or whatever. Like, that's what I like about live events, local live events. And if you are in your local area and you're not seeing these types of opportunity, why don't you be the change that you want to see? You initiate this kind of stuff. Make
Mm,
contact with people in the industry and you bring them to your town and get them to help educate the people in your area if you're not seeing these types of things in your area for your local musicians.
mm. Absolutely. And that brings me to another point too, and also goes back to a previous point where when you go into the mindset of, oh, I already know Pro Tools, I don't need to learn anything, I don't need to take this class. I'm sure over the years you've gathered up questions that you have about Pro Tools, or maybe a specific audio engineering technique, or maybe there's something that you want to learn. How do you do that? If you're taking a course, you have access to somebody who knows this stuff, somebody who you can go directly, who may have used Pro Tools for 10, 15 years more than you have, and they know the ins and outs of Pro Tools. So you can go up and ask them. They'll make themselves available for an hour or two after class, or maybe you can go in on your day off and just sit there and ask them a whole bunch of questions, and they can walk you through. And having access to somebody rather than going through Avid's technical support and waiting 48 hours for them to need more information, so then they can respond 48 hours again, and it takes you 2 to 3 weeks before you actually get the information that you need and want. But having access to an instructor like Monique, if I when I was in her class, I had access to her where she could point me like, hey, I need to know about this copyright. How does this work? Can you point me in the right direction? And if she can't answer that question, she's able to point me to somebody who can, or a resource or a link or something that will be able to answer my question to the best of the ability. And I think having that quick access to that information in the music industry that is so quickly moving and so fast paced is vital. Is so, so, so important. And making sure that it's accurate as well.
Absolutely. And like I said before, establishing those relationships with your professors and your instructors is crucial. Because in your learning process, and so this was something you brought up prior to us starting, which was opportunities. We haven't brought that up.
Mhm,
So there's another benefit to going to a school is most schools have a department with connections to businesses that are looking for people. So their career center, or whatever your school may call it, or a school may call it, is another benefit to going to a school that you may not get out here on your own, especially if you are an introvert. I come across a lot of students that are like, well, I just kind of keep to myself. And I go, and how's that working out for you? Because you have to learn how to talk to people. You have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn and communicate. I don't just mean like, hi, my name is so and so. It's, how you doing? My name is so and so, and this is something that I'm interested in. What is it that you do? Like, how would you fare in a job fair situation or a networking situation? And I think that's something else that school may help you with, which is meeting more people in your tribe, so to speak. Thank you, Nell Thompson, because I got to stole that from her.
mhm,
But meeting people in your tribe that will help you relax, help you learn how to speak a little bit better when you're in these types of situations, and then when you get out, you feel a little bit more comfortable because now you're amongst your people,
mhm.
and you know how to approach them, and you feel more comfortable about what you're talking about. But not just that, now you're establishing a relationship where somebody may refer you to someone else for an opportunity, whether it be an internship, whether it be a part-time gig or whatever. These are things that are plentiful when you are in a situation where you get to be around people like yourself with the same types of interests versus sitting at home behind your computer taking a course online. Again, if you're not and sometimes these courses give you an opportunity to network. Like I did take an online course through Coursera. I took a few of them, and I took a course through the University of Pennsylvania. And the cool thing about that was the online students were from all over the world. I met people from India, people from London, and that was cool. But I'm an extrovert anyway.
Mm,
So it's easy for me to talk to people, even online.
mhm.
And so that's something that you 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 should see is available. Is there an opportunity to meet the other students, or is there some sort of career department that offers opportunities, if you choose to go?
Mhm. I also love the point that, we've talked about this on the podcast before, is you never know who people know. Is you treat everybody with respect, you treat the janitor with the same respect as the CEO, because you never know who that person is. And when I was going to school, I had one of my good friends in my class, his dad was a Grammy-winning gospel music producer. And that alone branched him off into a hugely, I mean, who knows who that guy knows? Who knows who his dad knows? And networking and connecting with these people, you never know at the university. They're there to learn just like you are, but they're also bringing a preset amount of knowledge and experience to the industry. Maybe they're coming back because they need to get a master's degree, and their company is paying for it, and they work for, Universal Music Group, and they're trying to get to a senior director position or a VP, but they need more education and to brush up on some of their topics. You have no idea who these people know and who these people are connected with. And so that's why networking and talking to these people is so, so beneficial, because they're not going to come out and say, like, my dad's a Grammy winning gospel producer, or my dad's or my mom's really good friends with Dolly Parton or her manager, and I'm going to be working with them after I graduate. That is very possible and does happen quite frequently. And if you position yourself as the only logical choice, as I mentioned before on the podcast, you may be reached out by this person. That person may talk and be like, hey, I'm in class with this one student. His name is Lennon. He's really good. He's always on top of things. He's on time. He's thorough with his responses. He's communicative. I think he would be a good asset to this team. So you never know who people know. So that's why it's very important to, when you're in these scenarios of going to school or even taking an online course that's only 3 months long, network with everybody in there, because you never know who these people are connected with and who's going to bring you your next opportunity.
And I also want to add that should you choose to go to an educational institution, I think it's really important that you go in and understand that that institution is set up that way for a reason. In other words, there's a lot of people that come in again with tunnel vision, short sighted, like, well, I just want to learn about this. Well, there's a reason these other things are there, because they're important, right?
Yes.
So, me being the business course, a lot of people don't want to touch my class. They're like, I don't care about that. That's not how my brain works, blah, blah, blah. And then they realize how important my information is in the grand scheme of everything. You're trying to put your music out. Do you know what an aggregator is? Do you know how many aggregators are out there? Do you know how they're charging? Do you know that you can actually use more than one for different types of music? And we talked about this in an episode as well.
Do you know
Um,
that they're not the only one to collect all of your royalties?
exactly. I was just going there, right?
Yeah,
So do
yeah.
you know that it's not like, hey, I use Jamvana and I'm good to go? No, you're not. Do you understand how these different? Do you know what your rights are as a copyright owner? So don't dismiss the broad scope of the education itself, right? If a school is putting a curriculum together, it's because they know exactly what you need to get to wherever it is that you're trying to go through that path. So there's part of the benefit too of going to a school versus, okay, I'm going to teach myself. The problem with you teaching yourself is you're going to miss stuff because you didn't know what it was to begin with. So it would be in your best interest to make sure that if you're going to do it yourself, then you speak to various people and create an outline for your education that you intend to create for yourself. But it could be a recipe for disaster. You might be leaving money on the table if you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
So, that's something else to think about
mhm.
if you're like, do I go or don't
And the coursework is structured in a way where you're learning A before you learn B, and you're walking before you're running. And these courses and degrees and certificates and whatever programs are set up in a way where they have industry experts coming in to advise them in how the courses should be struggled. They're bringing in attorneys who have been worked with high profile people. They're bringing in music producers who have had massive hits. They're bringing in engineers who have had successful hits with major artists. So they know exactly how the industry is functioning at this current state, and they also have a good prediction on where it's going. Because of the projects they're working on, they may have a project that isn't going to go live for 3 years, but they know how that's going to be structured. So the next 3 years, this is how it's going to function. So these courses and education programs are set up in a way that are conducive to learning and the best way to structure these programs.
And something else that I said at the beginning was, think about the type of person that you are. Are you the kind of person that can go to school? Are you the type of person that is going to hold yourself accountable? Can you get to class on time? Because at the end of the day, it is still a structured setting. And if you're used to waking up at 10 o'clock and doing your own thing, then a structured setting may not be the best option for you, right? Because school costs money. And if you're already pinching pennies, you better make sure that the same level that you hold your instructors or your professors to, you hold yourself to that same level as well. It's your
Yes.
money. You're the one going in there. You wanted to learn something. So if you're going to do that, then make it count. This is an
Mhm.
investment into your own future. If you got money to burn, more power to you. But if you are somebody who is like, listen, I'm making sacrifices to make this happen, then make it count. Put yourself, be present is what I'm saying. Be present in your education. Take as much away from that situation as you possibly can. Something is going to stick with you, right? Something is going to stick with you. And you made that choice. So if you're not happy, then the only person you have to blame at that point is yourself, because you should have done your research prior to making that decision.
Mhm.
And I think that's the biggest thing is know the type of person that you are. If you know you are lazy and you're not ready to change, then a structured institution setting is not for you at that moment in your life. And people change over time. I was not the greatest student coming out of high school. I did great in high school, but coming out of high school, going into college, my first couple of years, I was just so like, "Ooh, I'm away from home. This is college." I was like, "Ooh," and was not doing what I was supposed to do. And my mother, God bless my mom, love you, mom, if you see this, she straightened me out real quick. She was like, "Hey, tighten up, or you're paying for your own school." Well, that didn't take but 30 seconds to register. uh, gotcha. Gotcha, mom. And then I started to recognize, because I was still trying to figure out what I wanted. For
Mhm.
people who are doing music, you guys already know what you wanted to do. I discovered much later in life what my calling was.
Mm.
Now I'm grabbing the bull by the horns and I'm doing it. And it's
Mhm.
never too late for anybody who may be watching this that is older, such as myself. You don't need to know how old I am, but I'm older than Lennon. Okay.
28 is not old, Monique.
Oh, I wish. But for anybody who's watching this who's a little bit older and they're like, I'm too old to do this. And no, if this is a passion for you, if you really love this and this is where you want to be, then you make it happen and you change your mentality. That's all there is to it. You change your mentality and go, okay, that's the person I was. Now I know what I want to do. Let me dive full speed into this and make this happen.
Mhm.
But as I tell my clients as well as my students, do it right, don't do it fast. Because when you do that, that's when you end up wasting money and making mistakes that are impossible to correct or is going to cost you more money to fix.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree. And some people have more time than they have money, and some people have more money than they have time. And if you've got more money than you have time, then hit us up, and Monique and I'll teach you anything you want. So, no, I'm just kidding. No, it's all that is really good information. That's all really good points. Sometimes they need that structure to get through the day. Sometimes a really good structured program is exactly what somebody needs to learn, what they need to learn. Because putting everything you need to know about the music industry and music business, from conception of a song to collaboration agreements to the royalties to the copyrights to marketing your music, promoting, collecting your money, it's overwhelming. And I'm still to this day learning things every day. Like, the laws are changing, royalties structures are changing, the companies that are collecting royalties are changing. It's just it's constant. It's never ending. I'm always learning something new, and I'm sure Monique, you are as well. So I think all of this was really good information. You know, the short answer is no, you don't need to go to school, but there are a lot of benefits to networking, to the structure, to what you're learning, to how you're learning it, to having access to people and other industry professionals, and building friendships that you'll have for a lifetime. So the people that I went to college with are some of my best friends, and I'll never forget the way that they treated me and how they respected me and looked up to me and have helped me through my journey. They were there for me for many years, and I will be for them as well. So it's really a beautiful thing on top of the people that you're working with. And college was very expensive for me, but the friendships and connections that I made are something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
Cool. That's
So
awesome. I love that.
yeah. Mhm. So cool. I think that wraps up. We've been talking a lot longer than we anticipated for this episode, but that's okay because there's a lot of information for this, and it's kind of a big question on what do you want to do with your education and what do you want to do with your life. It's the next chapter in your life when you go to school or try to learn something new. So yeah, if as always, follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, or anything like that, be sure to follow and like and leave a review there as well. It really helps the show get discovered. You can also sign up to our email list, which is on our website. Head to our website, and we'll actually send you a free PDF checklist of what to do before you distribute your music and what to do, how to distribute your music. So sign up for that, and we'll send that to you for free. Monique, I want to kick it over to you. Do you have anything else that you want to add before we kind of wrap this all up?
No, nothing to add other than just, hey guys, leave us a comment, ask us questions. We would really love to do an episode where we are responding to your own questions. And thank you to everyone who's been subscribing. We see our subscribers are going up, our views are going up, and we actually absolutely love it. But we want you guys to be a part of this. So if you have questions, if there's a topic you want us to cover, please let us know. We do check our comments.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining the Vana room.
Yes, thank you. And we'll see you next week.